What's up, y'all? This is One Royal Way here on Kansas City Sports Network. My name is Joel Penfield. Thank you so much for making this a part of your day, whether you are on YouTube watching, if you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. Let's talk some Royals. And joining me tonight, normally behind the booth here, third man here, Tucker Franklin's going to be joined to talk a little Royals tonight. What's up, man?
Yeah, hey Joel, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Glad to talk a little bit of ball. I was on the Outside the Trenches podcast yesterday, wearing my Royals cap, and I figured, you know what, I might as well wear a Royals cap on a Royals show. So here I am. I forced my way on here. I said, I'm going to be on here, Joel, and you can't do anything about it because I'm behind the scenes and I get to decide that. So, no, I'm just playing. But appreciate you having me on. We got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we certainly do. I think there's at least a little bit more good this week than there was last week with less. So, well, we'll see where we're at. But before we do that, the show as always, brought to you by Kansas City Strength and Conditioning. Let's hear a quick word from them.
From the beginning, we knew right away that we wanted to do strength conditioning and a throwing program for the baseball and softball community. It wasn't something we were trying to back into or all of a sudden learn. We knew we were really good at coaching these skills from the get-go, and the fact that we're in the same business and the employees are all on the same page, we can write a program based off of what a kid needs, not just getting him stronger or faster from a general sense. It's what does this kid need? On the pitching end, we can say, hey, this kid needs such and such. He needs to do this or that better. A lot of times it turns out it's not something that needs to be fixed in the baseball cage or on the throwing mound. It actually needs to be fixed in the weight room.
As always, thank you so much to KCSC for sponsoring this show. Be sure to go check them out if you have a baseball or softball player in the area that needs a place to train. All right, Tuck. So let's start with some positives, some good stuff that we've seen over the last week. Now, the Royals were on a little bit of a winning streak. We were recording on Thursday. They played the day game against Minnesota. Still won the series, but they lose 1-0 today. Before that, had a little 3-game win streak going. Still not scoring a lot of runs, but finding ways to win games, especially in April, is key if you really want to get off on the right foot for the season. But the thing I really want to hit on here is the bullpen. It feels like we're heading back towards what made those 2014-15 teams good, and having an absolutely nails bullpen from anybody they go to just about. I think they're really finding the right mix there early on.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with how those guys have pitched, and a part of that too is how good Mike Matheny has done, and I'll give him credit for this, of managing that bullpen, of knowing when to go to guys at the right time, and knowing when guys are done the starting pitching wise. That can be a really difficult part of managing. Mike Matheny has historically been pretty good at that, and he's been able to do that pretty well so far this year. I mean, if you look at what these guys are throwing right now. I mean, you got Scott Barlow with a 1.35 ERA in 6 2/3 innings. I mean, Scott Barlow, a guy that we talked to, trains at KCSC, a guy was getting ready for the season, was training even though they were locked out, and he's going out there. He's thrown really well. I've been impressed with Stamont. The other day, I can't remember what game it was. He kind of came out for a save and kind of struggled a little bit, but with his command, but then was really able to right the ship. It was a nasty weather day too. So I was actually really impressed with Stamont in that effort there. And we've seen guys come out and pitch really well. Colin Snyder, another guy that has pitched well that I thought of, and it has been awesome. It looked like his FIP here is 2.14. So you're seeing these guys and you're just like, wow, where have these guys come from? It's like Colin Snyder. I mean, I didn't pay that close attention, probably to as much close attention to the minor leagues as you and Alex and Josh do. But I was like, where did this guy come from? You got guys like Dylan Coleman and Scott Barlow, Josh Stamont. Those are always Josh Stamont was the name coming up, right? That was the name that we always heard was Josh Stamont. This is going to be the guy right here. He was they did the opener thing in Omaha with him. Like, well, maybe the Royals are going to try the opener thing here. So it's good to see these guys that we've heard of, like Stamont, come in and be able to get those saves and have these high leverage situations, decently early in the season as good character building, right? As these kind of these character arc, the character arc progresses.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we know, what you're going to get from Scott Barlow. He's going to be, I mean, he's been a top 15 reliever in the sport for the last 2 seasons. So he's certainly lived up to that billing early on. The only thing that does concern me a little bit is his velo has been down a little bit. It's like 93. Normally he works like 95, 96. To be fair, a lot of his innings have come when it's been really crappy weather, like cold, windy. Like that's not conducive to good pitching. So hopefully he's still just getting ramped up, but that's certainly something to keep an eye on. He's still been effective. Colin Snyder, a guy that Alex and I talked about for the season, he got put on the 40-man roster. Like, okay, I mean, the slider's pretty good, and the fastball's already he was really good in Double-A, got absolutely lit up in Triple-A. So when he made the opening day roster, it's like, obviously they know something we don't, and he's been awesome. And I think they've deployed him really well. Not a lot of high leverage situations. Come and get 1-2 outs, and let's move it to the next guy. So it's been a good way to work him in this spot. And if you look at his baseball savant page, there's a lot of red, which means he's in the upper percentiles on fastball spin, velo, breaking ball spin, exit velocity, expected batting average and stuff. So he's not allowing a lot of hard contact. He's getting outs. He's not striking a lot of guys out, but he's being effective. Dylan Coleman's working in nicely. He's striking out 40% of the dudes he's facing right now.
Yeah.
So if he can just miss barrels a little bit more, he's probably going to end up slotting in with Stamont back into the bullpen. And I don't even want to forget about Amir Garrett has been a great addition too. Came in for, I think it was when Carlos Hernandez went out and pitched an inning in 2/3 and was great. So a veteran that's come in nicely as well. Josh Stamont seems like he's kind of been the closer and is going to be at least for a little while now. I don't know how much longer he'll be able to do that. My only concern with him, and it's been the concern for the entire time he's been in the big leagues, is the command just seemed when it's bad, it's bad. And he's all over the place. Now, he was still able to get the save the day that his command was completely all over the place. But when you're pitching high leverage situations, you can't do that. You can't do that very often. That happens to him from time to time. So I can almost see like a flip-flop between him and Dylan Coleman. Maybe you deploy Stamont in 7th, 8th. Coleman can slot in the 9th. I think just the command issues do concern me a little bit. But like I said, he's been able to kind of get things rolling, pitching to a 3 ERA. The FIP is below 2. So he's been great so far. And you have to win games, especially when the Royals offense is as bad as it is. And we'll get to that later. To be able to shut down a game the way that they have early on in the season tells me that we're in a pretty good place to be able to win games in the 7th, 8th inning when, it's 2-1, it's kind of dicey, offense is sputtering, and you're still able to get a W. That's huge.
Absolutely. And I think bullpens, even nowadays in the age of like home runs, I think bullpens are the big reason that teams win championships. And if the Royals can really lock down this bullpen and keep this consistent, that's the hardest part about baseball, right? Is consistency. If they can keep consistency in this bullpen, it'll be great for years to come. And I'm glad you brought up Amir Garrett. I think I saw something that he came in and threw like 18 sliders or something like that in his appearance.
Yeah.
And it's great to see him come in and pitch great. Hasn't allowed an earned run yet, and he's only pitched in 3 innings. But I mean, that's good to see from Amir Garrett, who kind of struggled in 2021. And so it's good to come in and see him kind of get back to his old self. And you're right. I'm glad you brought up Amir Garrett. I think we're still talking about positives, right? We're still trying to keep it positive, but the move of Brady Singer is very interesting to me. We could probably talk about that, maybe later, but I think that's interesting.
He hasn't pitched since the 3rd game of the season.
Yeah.
Now I do wonder, some of that to me feels like you are going to throw in the bullpen, and by throwing the bullpen, I mean you are going to throw side sessions in the bullpen until you know how to throw your changeup and feel comfortable throwing it. That this is we are going to work this out come hell or high water. Because if you want to be a solid big league pitcher, you want to be a guy that contributes to the big league level, you have to throw your changeup. You cannot be sinker slider. Even in the bullpen, it's going to get hammered. It did. That was in that game where they gave up 17 runs. He got walloped, right? For Coar got walloped. So I think there's a lot to be desired from Brady Singer. And I'm not completely shocked that we haven't seen him since that game.
Yeah, I kind of want to see what he would be like as a reliever. It's just kind of one of those things that's intriguing to me. He does have to figure out that 3rd pitch, right? He can't be a successful starter in the big leagues and not have 3 pitches. I mean, it's really how it is. But maybe he can figure something out when it comes to like the bullpen. I know Wade Davis tried to be a starter, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait, then maybe this guy can be a reliever, and he ended up being one of the best closers in Royals history. So I think that could be maybe something that Brady Singer could do, but I don't know if he's interested. I don't. That's another thing. It's like the guy's got to be interested in being a reliever, and he's very much a starting pitcher.
Yeah, he seems like the type of dude that is kind of hard headed and like wants to just make it work because it's
Yeah.
worked for the entirety of his life pitching. I've been able to throw a sinker and slider and get outs, and I think there's still a certain amount of like still feeling like he can do that when it's very clear that he can't. Talking about some of these other starters, though, Brad Keller has been great. He has looked as good as I've seen him since that 2020 shortened season. Mixed bag last year wasn't great. It seems like he's figured something out there, and a guy that you can slot into the middle of the rotation right now, and he's going to give you 5-6 innings of really solid work, which is huge right now because the starting rotation isn't throwing a ton of innings. Zach Greinke can't strike anyone out, but he somehow only gives up 1 run in 5 innings, which I don't know how sustainable that is, but it is at least a welcome sign that he's still finding ways to get dudes out. Yeah. Daniel Lynch, I think he's starting to turn a corner. He looked pretty solid last night, Wednesday night, through 5 innings, only struck out 2, but didn't give up a ton of hard contact, was getting ahead of hitters. Now it's the same thing I talked about with Les last week of now you have to be able to get guys out. You have to be able to get to strike 3 and be able to punch that ticket, and don't let the at bat continue. Don't let him make a weak contact on a hanging slider and go out of the yard like he did in St. Louis. Chris Bubich is still walking way too many dudes, which is such a huge problem because he is good when he is around the zone, but when he's not, I mean, I don't even know if he's usable out of the bullpen with how wonky his command can be sometimes. So I don't know what to make of him at this point. He's walking twice as many guys as he's striking out right now, which you cannot do at the big league level. So I'm curious how many more starts they give him before they need to sit him down, send him down, and get his command ironed out.
Maybe that's something they mess around with too, and they swap him and Brady Singer once they feel Brady's comfortable. Maybe they feel like Bubich is a little bit more comfortable in that 5 spot right now. But what I think's really helped Brad Keller is moving to that 2 slot.
Yes.
Not having the pressure of being an ace, facing other number 1 pitchers. Zach Greinke gets to shoulder that load. He doesn't care about that. He doesn't. And so Brad Keller's getting out there and being able to go up against, in air quotes, I guess you could say, they're really not facing against each other, these number 2 pitchers, and Brad's dealing 1.38 ERA. I mean, you look at this, he's pitched the most innings out of the starting pitchers, 13 innings. I think that's a big deal. I think if he can come in and eat up some innings, that's big. Even though you got a good bullpen, you don't want to tax the bullpen so much this early in the season that it's a bad thing. So him being able to eat up innings efficiently and be good, 10 strikeouts in 13 innings, I've really liked what I've seen from him so far. And we talked about kind of before the podcast, you brought it up just now that, Zach Greinke not being able to strike out people is not sustainable. And I don't think that that's something that will be a consistent thing for him. I know it was kind of out of the, I can't remember. It was like his first start since like 2018 or something the other day when he didn't strike out anybody.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact date, but it was a while that he had gone without striking somebody out. And I thought that was interesting.
I think he has 2 strikeouts, and now it would be like 16 innings, 16 and a third, something around that. That's not going to play out long term. But that's also just kind of the pitcher he is at this point in his career. It's pitching, it's not throwing, and this happens to guys. So he's going to get knocked around at some point because he can't get to strike 3. But what we're seeing right now, at least he still finds a way to get guys out and to induce weak contact, which at this point he has to do. Yeah. Any other thoughts on the pitching staff? I guess. Sorry, I have one more point, but you can go ahead.
No. I mean, I'm going to be interested to see how the starting rotation kind of develops as the season goes on, right? We talked about Bubich, how he's kind of struggled. Carlos Hernandez is one of those things where you're going to get a really good Carlos Hernandez outing, or you kind of don't know.
You can't strike anybody out.
Yeah, and he can't. Yeah, that's another thing. He can't strike anybody out. The Royals have too many starting pitchers that can't strike anybody out. And in today's MLB, you got to be able to strike guys out. And I'm gonna be curious to see how Brady Singer maybe even slots back in there. What happens with Jackson Kowal? Does he come back this season? What's gonna happen here? I don't think that this is the final form. Like, this isn't going to be the same rotation that we see in October or maybe even in May. So I think that it's going to be really interesting to see how this all shakes out. The bullpen is solid. The bullpen's going really well. Again, I want to tip my hat to Matheny there for being able to manage it as well as he has.
Yes, and I agree. I think he's done a good job making it work this year because the thing that kind of was the issue in St. Louis was he could not manage the bullpen. or he overmanaged it and overworked guys. We've seen some of that in Kansas City too. Scott Barlow's already thrown 6 2/3 in maybe like 11 games. Josh Stamont's thrown 6. Colin Snyder's thrown 5 1/3. Was it Amir Garrett's thrown 3 1/3? So like, there are guys that are getting worked a lot early. Now, Scott Barlow can handle that. He's thrown 70+ innings the last 2 full seasons he's played. So that's kind of what he does. I'm just afraid that if they do too much too early and they're pitching in this cold weather, they're taxing their arms now, by July, they're going to be exhausted and the bullpen's going to regress back. So, and some of this is, hey, you need to get 6 or 7 out of your starting rotation more often. How often that is going to happen, I also don't know, because the Royals threw the least amount of starting pitcher innings in Major League Baseball last year. So there's a little bit of give and take here, but I am afraid that Matheny could overwork guys too early, which is going to be a problem as you are trying to win games in the dog days of summer.
Yeah, and that's always a worry once you start relying too heavily on one thing, right? Especially in baseball, when you start really relying on that bullpen, it's almost always going to be, okay, when is it going to regress? It seems like in baseball, there's always one thing that's going wrong, right? You don't have enough fingers for the holes, and this is like one of those things where you just kind of want to nurse this one along as long as possible. But again, Brad Keller throwing 13 innings in his 2 appearances, I think is good for the bullpen, not only for him, but it's good for the bullpen.
Well, Zach Greinke's been able to do it too. Like, if nothing else, like him being able to if you can get 5 2/3, 6 innings from Zach Greinke, then you're going to be fine all year. I don't care if he's out there and he gives up 8 runs. Like, if he can just get through 6, then that's helping your bullpen. You need to have somebody there. I don't care who it is, but you need somebody to go out there and go, hey, you're getting the night off. You guys are getting the night off tonight, and go out. I'm throwing 8 shut, and then someone come in, slam the door, and let's go home. You need that from somebody. I don't know who that somebody is. I don't know if the Royals have that somebody. Right. So if that's going to be one of the really big things to follow moving forward here. Before we talk about the hitters and preview a little bit of the series coming up in Seattle, we have our weekly interview with Keona Sinks at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, talking about what's coming up here soon. All right, Keona. So obviously last week, from the last time we spoke, Jackie Robinson Day was on Friday. We talked about the Twitter Spaces that went on, that Bob Kendrick and others, were a part of. I was able to hop in for a little bit. I was working remote that day, so I was able to listen for a little while. But what was the reception to that, and how do you think it went, and just some of your thoughts from that?
Yeah, no, it was a great Jackie Robinson Day at the museum. First and foremost, we unveiled the face Jackie Robinson placard that made its way home to Kansas City, and just serves as a reminder, that the work that we still have yet to do, and the important conversations around race relations. But obviously it's bittersweet. I mean, we're excited to have the D-face Jackie Robinson birthplace marker, but it's still for us, like, okay, someone, fired a gunshot essentially into the placard. But we're excited that most people around the country now will have the opportunity to visit it and see it on display at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And then our Twitter Spaces with Jeff Passan, Bob Kendrick, Dave Stewart, just Nick Wright, just all those guys, moderated by Todd, alongside LaTroy Hawkins, was really a great inspirational way for us to make it accessible on socials for people to listen in. And they all shared a lot of different insights and their opinions on the game today, the game and where it was. And Jackie's role was just so much greater than, the color barrier, and having more opportunities for not only today's game, but in moving forward and what the Negro Leagues did to make a way for others. So it was a great Jackie Robinson Day for the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Yeah, and then we debuted the Barry Breakers exhibit in LA. So it was a crazy day.
Yeah, definitely super busy throughout the baseball world, but one of my favorite days on the baseball calendar for sure. I loved the subtle touch this year. Everybody wears 42, but instead of it being in the normal number for whatever the jersey was, it was the the kind of block 42 in the blue, like the Brooklyn Dodgers jersey. Thought that was a very cool, subtle touch that Major League Baseball did this year. I really enjoyed that. Just a nice, something small, but I think the impact of seeing that was very cool.
Very cool. And it was really cool to see the Dodgers tweet about our exhibit yesterday.
Yeah.
And so it'll be there throughout the All-Star break later this summer, and hopefully another team will pick it up. And so hopefully it'll travel the country really well later this year. So we're excited.
That's going to be an incredible opportunity for it to be there for the All-Star game with it being in Chavez Ravine this year. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We talked a little bit about it last week with the renovation for Monarch Plaza. Phase 1 is undergoing right now, heading into to May 6th. Let's talk about rehash some of that a little bit for maybe anybody that didn't listen last week.
Yeah, the museum, we've been working very intentionally to restore Monarch Plaza, the former site of Municipal Stadium. We were very fortunate to get some resources from our partners, Evergy here in Kansas City, alongside others, Draw Architect, and the State of Missouri Department of Conservation. So they've been a huge help with the museum and working on how do we, not only just restore it from a this design and, making it pretty, but obviously monarch butterflies and pollinators in the environment. And just this whole symbolic, tie-in to the environment and the history has been such a great experience. And so actually today, or yesterday, actually, I think I sent you the tweet and the photo. All the placards are gone. It's really weird because people have been, oh, hey, I didn't see the placards. And so they're getting currently restored. We've started the phase 1 of the design and enhancement process. Those placards will go back next week or closer to May 6th. And then today we have our first work day where we'll start gutting the site, which is exciting. And so I'm actually heading there within the next hour to join Evergy and their green team, as they say, of volunteers. And we're going to gut all the shuttles and debris and just bring everything up. So everybody's excited about that ahead of May 6th.
It's going to be an incredible project. And then later on that weekend as well, on Saturday the 7th, is the March of the Monarchs, honoring one of the championship Negro Leagues baseball teams. There's a lot going on there. So what's going on that weekend that people can look forward to? Yeah,
food trucks, games, just a full jam-packed family-filled weekend. This year marks the 80th anniversary of the 1942 Kansas City Monarchs. And Joel, as you know, they gave our city its first sports championship of any kind. So we weren't able to give them the celebration that they deserved. And so this whole tradition of where the March of the Monarchs stems from is traditionally when the Monarchs played here at home in Kansas City, fans will literally, thousands of people in a marching band will lead the Monarchs from 18th and Vine to the corner of 22nd and Brooklyn. And literally it would just be thousands of people. And that's that winning spirit and rallying the community around the team. And so essentially we're reversing that on Saturday, May the 7th, where we'll have our shuttle take people to 22nd and Brooklyn to start the march and ending in the 18th and Vine district, where people will be greeted by Slugger and just a lot of exciting things in the works, food trucks and all the things that kids love, and hopefully make it where families can attend as well. And so it'll be a lot of people out. Hopefully we get great weather. But it's free. So, we're encouraging everyone to come out and join the museum. And then to just buy some gear, wear your Monarchs attire, and just come out and have fun.
It's going to be awesome. Kind of nice, kind of full circle moment a little bit, going back from the site back to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. It's going to be really cool. I might have to get my family out there for that one for sure.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot going on. And again, everybody become a member of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, donate, do whatever you can, keep promoting the heck out of this stuff. There's a lot of good things going on in Kansas City with the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and look forward to what we have coming up here next week. It's always a pleasure, Keona. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
So the offense still sucks. Talked about it last week, and it really hasn't gotten better, considering the Royals still haven't scored more than 5 runs in a game since the St. Louis game. That is twice in 11 games this year in which they have scored more than 5 runs, or more than 4 runs, I guess, because they scored 5 and 7. Still some stuff that's my general thought. But I do want to point out that Nicky Lopez is still hitting, and I'm glad that they made some changes to the lineup. It needed to happen. I talked about it a little bit on a Royals Farm Report last week when we did our a little bit about the big leagues, because it's still it still matters. That it was the same lineup every day for a week and a half, and it was a lineup that was not producing. It was not scoring runs, and at some point you have to rattle the bat rack a little bit. You have to change things up just to see what happens, if nothing else. And if it doesn't work, then you throw that idea out and you throw out another lineup tomorrow, and maybe something sticks. That's the beauty of playing 162 games. You have opportunities to do that. There is something to be said for continuity and knowing where you're hitting the lineup every single day. But if it's not working, you got to make a change. The biggest change they made was moving Whit Merrifield out of the leadoff spot, which is something they needed to do. I love Whit. I'm wearing a shirt. He's a great guy. He's been a great player in Kansas City for a long time. It's becoming a concern of how the decline is happening. He is currently has a, let's see if I can find it here. He currently has a 4 weighted runs created plus, which means he is currently 96% worse than league average. He's hitting $160, or he's not hitting $162. He is hitting 150 with a 190 on base and a 175 slug. It is awful right now.
Yep. You
had to move him out of the leadoff spot, and he does. It's not like he walks a ton, so he's not gonna do much for you there. And try and put together a nice at bat. It needed to happen. They moved Nicky Lopez from 9 to 2 to 1 in 3 games, and it seems like Nicky's kind of got it figured out a little bit. He's a much better person to have in that leadoff spot. I'd move Whit down to like 8, maybe at this 6 or 8 at this point. Move him down to the bottom of the order. Maybe that sparks something, but I think he still has enough value, maybe in that 2 spot, that you can make it work. The problem is the Royals don't have too many guys they can put there right now. Yeah. And I'm glad that they also moved Bobby Witt Jr. down in the order. I am not throwing any red flags, and neither should you, listeners, any viewers, anybody. Don't throw any red flags. Don't sound any alarms. Bobby's going to be fine. He is working through the stuff that everybody goes through at the big league level. And it's not like he is out there flailing and hacking and looking awful. It's not like we're looking at the scorecard every single night and he's over 5 with 3 punchies. It's not like he's making errors in the field. He still has plus value there. And when he is making contact, he's not always making hard contact. But when he barrels it up, he's just been super unlucky. It happened in the game on Tuesday, I believe, where they had an opportunity to with the bases loaded and 1 out, and he screams the ball to the shortstop, 104 miles an hour, hits into a double play. Like, what are you going to do at that point? That's just unlucky crap that happens on a baseball field. So I'm not worried about him. He's going to be fine. It's 40 plate appearances. 40.
Right.
You need about 100, 150 before you have a big enough sample size of, okay, this is where the season is heading for this guy. And by about 100 plate appearances, I imagine Bobby's going to be just fine. The talent is too good. And we can reassess in about a month or so once he gets those 100 plate appearances. But I don't foresee a situation where they're going to send him down. I don't foresee a situation where he gets worse. So calm down is all I'll say right now.
I think that's perfect. I think that I even was thinking maybe even 200 plate appearances before I really freak out about Bobby Witt, because he does add that plus defensive value, as we talked about. I was at that game, the second game of the season when he made that defensive play, and
it was incredible.
It was a great stop. The throw wasn't the best. So let's be honest here. The throw got there.
He made the play. He made the play and got the out.
That's true.
That's all that matters, man.
I know.
Doesn't matter how pretty it is. He made the play.
That's true, and I think that's a whole lot better than the alternative of who would be playing third base. What Hunter Dozier?
Hunter Dozier, who's not good at there at all.
Yeah, right. And so it's like, okay, Hunter Dozier has been hitting well recently. We'll say that he's hit like 3 home runs in the last like 3 games or something like that. I don't know that off the top of my head, but
he's got 2. He's got 2.
Okay.
149 WRC plus early on is pretty nice for him. A nice little bounce back. Oh, it's kind of funny. He has not walked this season yet. And he struck out 23% of his plate appearances. So probably due for some regression a little bit. I think he went 0 for 4 today. So I don't know what to make of him, but it's at least nice early on and encouraging that he's hitting the ball well. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I'm looking at the box score from the game earlier on Thursday. The Royals had 3 hits.
Usually
That's not going to win you any ball game. It doesn't. I guess if those are 3 home runs, it will. But and we talked about this before. I think the one bright spot of the offense has been Andrew Bentindy, and Andrew Bentindy hit a ball that would have been a home run in 29 other ballparks, but that wasn't a ballpark, or the only ballpark obviously was Kauffman Stadium. That kept that sucker in. So I think Andrew Bentindy's been hitting really well. Looking at his slash line here, 371, 436, and 457. He's doing all that you need him to do. I'm glad that they've put him kind of in that 3 hole right ahead of Salvi. I think that's been good. I will say this. I'm never going to be a Mike Matheny apologist. I know I started off this podcast by saying, he did a really good job managing the bullpen. Kudos to him for that. Kudos to him for mixing up this lineup. But this is one thing about Mike Matheny that I don't really like, is that he's pretty dug in when it comes to the lineup and stuff like that. And he's almost maybe not. I think results based is not what he is, and
loyal to a fault.
Yes, I think that's kind of that's what he is, and I understand. I understand the clubhouse morale of, Whit Merrifield is our leadoff hitter. He's the leader of this team. He's been our leadoff hitter for several years, and we're going to keep him the leadoff hitter. I get that to a point, right? To a point to where he's hitting 150. And I'm looking at it now. He's now batting 136. You can't have that as your leadoff hitter. I don't care how long he's been with the team, how many awards he has. That you can't have that, and I think that's really it's good to see that Mike Matheny is doing that, is shaking up this lineup. Another guy that is frustrating to see at the plate is Carlos Santana, especially a guy batting .69 right now is what I'm seeing, .069 after today's game, and you've got guys in the AAA farm system that are tearing the cover off the ball and playing very well. Hitting the ball well, playing good defense. Vinny Pasquantino, Nick Prado. I know you guys mentioned Nick Prado was doing all this. He's playing like outfield now too, just to kind of see how they can get him in the lineup. So Carlos Santana isn't helping his straight stock, which sucks for the Royals. But I think at some point you have to say, listen, Carlos, you're a veteran, but man, these guys are knocking down the door. Not only do they have one guy who's tearing it up in AAA. They've got 2 guys who play first base that are tearing the cover off the ball, hitting well, playing good baseball. Man, how long do you think Carlos Santana has left in this lineup? I know that he's getting paid in the contract and everything like that, but at some point I think there has to be a line drawn in the sand.
I'd maybe say about another month and a half, if that. I think they're going to give him that runway because he's a 12, 13-year veteran in the big leagues, and he's kind of earned that right. Whether I agree with that sentiment or not is a whole nother story. But I agree with you. And I know that I mentioned this with Bobby Wood Jr., that he only has 40-some-odd plate appearances, like no reason to be concerned. And generally, I agree with that for anybody early on in the season. Like, I don't worry about guys unless there's some really, really concerning numbers, like high strikeout rates or anything like that. But for Carlos Santana, I mean, he has been hitting below 170, if you like batting average, since the All-Star break last year. And we have seen he fell off a cliff in the middle of July. And you cannot have that hitting 5 in your lineup, especially when you have guys that are going to be a part of the next good Royals team down in AAA. Like, Vinny is killing it right now.
Yeah, he is.
Prado's still striking out a lot, and I don't think he's going to come up here soon. I think Vinny has a much better chance of coming up soon. He had a home run. He had his first AAA home run today. Lefty, going to left center. Like, Vinny is very close to ready, I think. Wow. It was a bomb too. It's super impressive. And at this point, I would much rather see Vinny Pasquantino work his way into the big leagues than watch Carlos Santana run out there at first base. Yeah. I'd much rather see that. And I know I've been saying kind of the same thing. I've been rehashing the same take multiple times on this podcast, but you can't do it. Like, you can't keep running out Carlos Santana when you have guys that are in your farm system that are going to be on the next good Royals team, we hope, that are just sitting there in AAA when Carlos Santana is up here flailing in the big leagues and is on the 18th hole of his career. I don't care about trading him. I understand. Like, I'm not even at that point. Like, I'm not hoping. I don't think there's going to be some like Jorge Soler hot streak that you're able to trade him, because I don't know, people like, I know there's some revisionist history because of the way the season ended for Jorge Soler, World Series MVP with the Braves. He was the worst hitter in baseball for about 3 months of that season last year. He was awful until the end of July when he hit 5 home runs in 8 days. Royals were able to trade him. If he didn't have that hot streak, I don't know if the Royals were even trade him. They probably just cut him.
I think he was batting under 100. Like, I think he was
under 200 for the entire season. He was legitimately the worst player in baseball if you look at WAR. And then he goes to Atlanta and things ended the way they did. Hey, good for him. And he got himself a contract out of it. Hey, I'm not gonna knock the guy that he got his money. But for Carlos Santana, like, we have enough of a track record here that it's not going to get better. It's not like he has some power to lean on. His thing is that he works good plate appearances and he takes walks. That works in Oakland in Moneyball. At a certain point, he's walking to 16% of his plate appearances. Say, good for you, dude.
Yeah.
You got to hit, and you're hitting below. You're hitting 069? Yeah, that's not
069 now.
It's not going to cut it. Like, he's been awful for too long, and I think we spent way too much time talking about Carlos Santana, but they keep putting him in the lineup, and
like,
I get it. You want to have your veteran in there. You want to have your first baseman in there. Now, I will say this: I am glad that Mike Matheny has the restraint to not put Ryan O'Hearn in the lineup every day. I will say that I was, and that's fine. That's fine. That's his role. He is if nothing else at the big league level, he is a bench player that you give at bats to once or twice a week. Now, because he has shown that is the player that he is. We have 1,000 plate appearances of evidence that he is not an everyday player at the big league level, let alone, your first guy off the bench. Kyle Isbell, on the other hand, got 1 plate appearance and pinch ran in another game, and they sent him down to AAA. I was about ready to get the milk cartons out. Like, where is this guy? Why is he not in the lineup? And I know people are saying the same thing about Olivares, but Olivares is a 4th outfielder. He's not an everyday player in the big leagues. So, like, that's his role. Kyle Isbell can play in the big leagues every single day and be a very good player. I fully believe that. And he was never given a chance. So sending him down to AAA sucks. At least he's going to get plate appearances there. But you can't keep him down at AAA for that long. He shouldn't be down there for very long. Then you need to bring him back up. If you want to, you need to give Whit Merrifield some days. Like, we're almost at a point, I know the streak is cool, and he's played it over 2+ seasons and all that, 400 some odd games. He needs to sit down. It's getting to a point where you can tell it's wearing on him. He's playing a position that he doesn't play. He hasn't played regularly, and he's playing there every day. And it's an outfield position where at 33, he's having to run around and do some stuff as a declining player. It's not great. I know we started this podcast all positive, and now I'm just frustrated.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was going to head this way, right? And I think that it was always going to head this way. There's a couple scenarios, Joel, that I kind of want to just talk through with you, right? Cool. I mean, in terms of lineups, one of those things is like a Whit Merrifield. Do you DH him some days, right? If you want to keep the streak going, you DH him a couple times. I think that's something that it's a completely viable option. Another thing that I think about too is, do you bring up a guy like MJ Melendez to catch and be your backup catcher, and you put Salvi at DH and then put Melendez, and then they can kind of flip flop back and forth if you want that bat in the lineup? It's just another thought that I've had with, Cam Gallagher is a fine backup catcher, but how good would it be to get MJ Melendez up here and get him some reps?
And he's been playing outfield too. There was a game last week where Vinny Pasquantino was playing first base, Prado was in left, and Melendez was in right. And Melendez actually looked pretty good. Made a sliding, kind of a little, flare, kind of ends up right down the right field line, right, lands fair. And he goes into a slide and gets the ball as it's rolling towards the sidewall and gets up and fires and throws the guy out at second. It looked natural. I mean, the dude's such a ridiculous athlete that I shouldn't be surprised, and no one else should be. But that's pretty impressive. In fact, they're willing to throw him out there, and he had never played there professionally. He had been catcher and DH until AAA last year. They put him at third. He looked pretty good. And now they're putting him in the corner because they're trying to find a way. The Royals have a good problem with those guys in that you bring them up, you just find a place for them where they're not going to be awful in the field, not a net negative, and you just let the bats work. It's a good problem to have, and the Royals are not letting that problem manifest itself.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about putting the bats in the lineup, right, with Vinny Pasquantino, you want him up here playing first base, and we talked about it with Carlos and everything. Maybe he tries and DHs every now and again. I know it's a completely different animal, DHing and stuff like that. And really, what this comes down to is Hunter Dozier, right? Because I think that we did talk about how he's been hitting well. I personally don't expect it to stay to
Same.
keep pace.
I don't.
And I'm pretty pessimistic when it comes to Hunter Dozier. There's nothing against the guy. I think he's a great guy, and I think that he got his contract, but that's again coming to a point of they're paying this guy a decent amount of money. He's not really doing a whole lot. They're not going to just sit him. They're not going to bench him. The business of baseball is going to kind of take over. Should they? Eventually, maybe at some point, yeah. I mean, maybe they should at some point. But to get some of these young guys up here, like I mentioned, a Melendez, a Prado, a Pasquantino, to get some reps even at DH, just to get some ABs at the big league level, could that be of assistance to them? Yeah, I think it would be. But I'm curious to where you sit on that of like maybe letting Dozier, sit out some of these days, maybe hitting DH, maybe not every day of the week, maybe every third day or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Hunter Dozier is he is very positionless and not in a good way. Like Whit Merrifield is positionless in a good way because you can play him in second, you can play him at left, you can play him at first if you really need it. You can play any of the three outfield positions relatively well. Hunter Dozier is bad at first, he's bad at third, and he's bad in right. And so you can put him out there, you can pray, and you can and you make sure, and you just hope he goes 2 for 4 with a double, and your position there is justified. But I'm kind of with you in that I think it's been a nice story. He's been really good so far, put together some good at bats, and hit the ball over the wall, which is really encouraging to see.
Yep.
But I just don't know how long it's going to last. I think that 2019 season is becoming a bit of an outlier for him. So, I mean, if he's able to keep it up, then, and hit 270 and, bop 18 to 20 home runs, then we're feeling pretty good. But I don't know what his long-term future is. I think there's a scenario where he's probably a bench utility guy where in a pinch you play, like I said, in a pinch you can play the corners, in a pinch you can play right field, probably going to DH every now and then against lefties, and you just kind of let it roll that way. I think the guys that are coming up are probably going to be higher ceiling guys, like MJ and Vinny, Kyle, and and Nick, and I'd rather see those guys in the lineup than Hunter Dozier. I kind of know we have it.
Yeah, well, looking kind of at just their roster right now that they have, maybe Dozier is me speculating at the moment now, and maybe Dozier slides into more of that O'Hearn role if he becomes that pinch hitter, that maybe not everyday guy. Maybe that makes him better, right? If he's not playing every day. I know sometimes guys like to get in the groove of playing every day, stuff like that, but sometimes that could be better.
It's
the
toughest jobs in the sport of. You have to act like you are a everyday player when you get one at a week. It's tough. I'm not going to act like it's not.
Right. And that's something that I could really see this, what is it now? 28, man? Is it 28, 27?
It's 28 for like another week, and then it's going to go down to 26.
That's this roster right now. I just think, man, there's just so much potential. I don't want to say it's wasting, but it's just like these guys are just banging at the door. I feel like, and they've got guys like Michael A. Taylor, batting 207, doing his job. But like, man, Kyle Isabel will be pretty darn good at center field, and get him out there and get him some ABs. That'd be pretty sweet. Seeing some other of those outfielders get up there and play. I'd like to see, these young guys we've mentioned get up there, and it's just one of those things where we're 11 games into the season. I'm already wanting the young guys to come up and play. But I want to see them already, right? They're down there, and I just want to see them.
I think we're going to get to that point here soon. And to talk about Michael A. Taylor, he's hitting to a 78 weighted runs created plus right now, which it's bad. It's not. I didn't mean it's bad. It isn't bad. Like it's about 22% below league average, which isn't great. But he plays so well defensively that it works and it's okay because and he's your 9-hole hitter and you're paying him like your 9-hole hitter that is a defensive first center fielder. That's fine. That works.
He's doing his job.
He's doing his job, and so I can't be upset with him. Mondesi is not playing that well, but he's a shortstop who's very good defensively, and they're not paying him a ton. So again, like he's doing his job. He's the least of the Royals' issues and the least of their problems right now. There are bigger fish to fry than complaining about Adalberto Mondesi and Michael A. Taylor in the lineup. Much bigger problems than that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to worry about those guys. I want to see Kyle Isbell come up. I hope he's able to just kind of get in a rhythm. And I hope he goes to Omaha, hits 350, and is back in the big leagues in 2 weeks. And goes, play me, let's go. Because I think he is a really good player and has an opportunity to be a great player at the big league level. But he just hasn't really been given the opportunity yet. He did at the end of last year, and I thought he produced really well in September. But he, again, 1 plate appearance in 11 games. Like, come on. There's got to be a better way to get him in the lineup than that.
Yeah, in all these ways, I'm like trying to. It feels like you got a bunch of pieces to the puzzle, right? You're just trying to fit it all together. I'm sure Mike Matheny's doing that every day, but like, man, I'm just looking at it. I was like, okay, what if you move Dozier to the bench? You bring up Melendez. Melendez can catch. Salvi can DH. Salvi's been hitting good out of the DH hole. Then you bring up Vinny. Vinny can place in there. And it's like, I feel like, that little meme with all the numbers going by when you're doing all these math equations.
Yeah, like I'm glad I'm not Mike Matheny, and I'm glad I'm not JJ Piccolo trying to figure out all the roster construction. That's why I sit behind this microphone and I talk about and complain about the guys that are on the big league roster and why they're not. That's why I'm here, and that's why they're there. So
bingo.
It is what it is. Fun series coming up in Seattle this weekend against the fun differential Mariners. Coming off a series, I think it's a 4-gamer against Texas. Sorry, I totally blanked, and I've been watching every game of that series because conflict of interest for me. I love the Mariners. I do. I'm sorry, Royals. I know I'm a Royals fan, Royals podcast, but that was my first love, that team. So weird series for me every year, but should be an interesting one. A couple, the pitching matchups are okay. Friday night is Brad Keller versus Chris Flexen. Feel like the Royals have a pretty good chance in that one with Brad Keller on the mound. Yeah. And what's nice is it's another pitcher-friendly park. In Seattle, the marine layer is super heavy in April, so the ball doesn't really fly. So they have a good chance here. Chris Bubich and Matt Brash, if you're a Royals fan, I know that you're not going to root for the opposing guy. Definitely watch that start because Matt Brash has some of the nastiest stuff in the sport. His slider is ridiculous. It's like a 70 grade pitch. It's nasty. Now, hopefully Chris Bubich can do some stuff there. And I believe it'll be Robbie Ray and Carlos Hernandez on Sunday, if I have the rotation correctly. So I didn't even look at it. I just totally took a guess.
Look at that.
Yeah, I watch too much baseball, dude. Like not just Royals. Like I watch games from the time I get home from work until the West Coast games are done. So that's my life. Really,
year, man.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. MLB TV is a great thing, except for the stupid blackouts. But I hope the Royals can go in at least be competitive. Seattle is good, and they're starting to kind of put it together. I don't know what to make. It's going to be also the interesting series with the storyline of having Bobby Witt Jr. and Julio Rodriguez on the same field, 2 of the top prospects in baseball, both kind of scuffling, trying to make their way. Julio's kind of heating up a little bit. So it'll be fun. That series is one of the best. I've heard a lot of guys talk about Seattle's their favorite road trip of the year. They're probably there right now. Hopefully in the next couple hours, they get to enjoy an evening in Seattle and then, get a nice cup of coffee, head to the yard at a T-Mobile Park. I almost called it Safeco because that's what it was when I was a kid going to games there. But it'll be fun. And I think the Royals have an opportunity to take 2 or 3. I don't think they will, but I think they have an opportunity. I hope that we can see the offense start to make some headway. I'm not gonna sit here and make some bold claim that this is a series where they figure it out. But I want to see them figure it out because they can't continue to win games 2-0, 2-1, 1-0. Like it's just not going to happen. So I hope that they're able to at least make some headway and head back home for the homestand here coming up here soon. I believe next weekend they're playing the Yankees. So that's going to be a big series at Kauffman Stadium. So there's a lot coming up here. The Royals, hovering around 500. That's kind of where you want to be, or hopefully they can get a couple of games here. I mean, for how bad they play generally, the fact they're 5-6, they have an opportunity to get to a place where we can look at baseball in May as, they have a chance here.
Yeah,
and I meaningful baseball, man. I just want meaningful baseball.
It's not too hard to ask. That's not too much to ask for.
Apparently,
right? You just want to enjoy a game when you go to it. And there were some times last year where I did not enjoy it. and it was not fun to watch. But yeah, I think you made a good point. The starting rotation gives the Royals a good opportunity to win some games here. Now it's going to come down to the bats, and I think that you mentioned the Marine layer stuff like that. It's going to go for both teams, so that'll be tough with the Royals not really hitting all that well. But I'd love to see the Royals put some runs up. They really got to wake the bats up. Maybe it's another lineup shakeup. I don't want to put too many eggs in that basket, but maybe that they get something going here with the different lineup. I mentioned earlier, Salvi's been hitting really good out of the DH, so maybe they try that off after give him a longer rest from catching, because it was a day game and then a night game, so they get that kind of extended period off of a kind of a travel day. So maybe that's something that they throw out there and try to shake up a little bit. But I think that this first game coming up on Friday, I think that's going to be a really good one that they can jump out there and win the first game of that series. I think that would be big.
Yeah, especially like I said, it's a good Seattle team that's really starting to figure things out early on. So you steal one or two there on the road, then you're feeling really good coming back home here pretty soon. So, Tuck, any final thoughts before we get out of here? It can be anything. I don't really care.
Oh, man, I don't think so. Listen, I've been seeing all these pictures of Kauffman Stadium, and there being like 17, 18 people in the stands. It's hard to see. I know we're not Oakland. I don't know if you saw this.
Oh, that's all, dude. It makes me sad. It really does.
Because paid attendance of 3,000 people, of 2,000 people,
less than that, dude. Like they had 2,700 for the day game yesterday. Like it makes me sad, because like the people in Oakland love the A's and they love baseball. When they were good a couple of years ago, won like 95 games, and they're sold out, or like at least like the lower bowl is sold out. People out in the outfield like banging drums and stuff. Like it's one of the best atmospheres in sport in an awful stadium. But it has become very clear the owner does not care. He sold off 3 of their best players. More are about to go, and so this is more like just apathy from the fans of like, why are we doing this? Like, why is this continue? For an owner that's worth $2.1 billion, he doesn't feel like spending. It's like, what a joke, man.
Like, I don't think Royals attendance numbers are going to get that bad. I don't anticipate that. Listen, the Royals haven't had great weather, right? When you start to look back at the games, I think it was like 50s and hazy.
Oh, it was awful. I was there on opening day. It was terrible.
Yeah, opening day was bad. The one game I've gone to was the Saturday game. That was nice weather. But that's like the only nice weather game that they've had all season. Maybe outside of today, and today was
probably the first game they played where it was over 60 degrees.
Yeah. But here's the thing: is I keep seeing all these pictures of people school day at the K today. So I mean, you had a good turnout for school day at the K. And I'd love to see some more people out there. You got to go out, go catch a game. It's a good experience, and get a dog, grab a beer. That's my favorite thing. Is get a dog and a beer, and just really just taking in that quintessential baseball essence of sitting in the stands and just taking it all in.
Do you have a go-to beverage?
I was drinking Blue Moon when I went the last time. I do enjoy a Blue Moon. Because they're Coors, or they're Coors. Over at Kauffman. Everywhere else in the city is Budweiser, though. So it's a little, it kind of throws me off a little bit when I go. I was like, I got to kind of shift around. But when I go with my dad get a rum and Coke. I'll get a Blue Moon. So, if I really want to feel nice in Kansas City, I get an unfiltered wheat, right? You grab your unfiltered wheat, you have one of those with a dog. All is perfect. Got to get out to a couple buck nights to see how many hot dogs I can eat. And then it's the best part of summer, seeing how many hot dogs you can eat a buck night.
Yeah, I had Southwest Boulevard, which is brand new.
Oh yeah,
they had that on tap at the K when I went on opening day, and it was spectacular. It's basically like if a Corona and Boulevard Unfiltered met. It's so good. Yeah, it's spectacular. But it was weird drinking a beer that you would drink on like a hot summer day when it was about 50 degrees and raining and miserable. So the dichotomy there was kind of interesting. I always try and find like kind of whatever summer beer Boulevard has and enjoy myself that way. It's a great time, and I hope people go out to the K more. Especially winning matters, and winning cures all. And so you want people in the stands. You got to win games, and I think they have a chance to do that here later on this season. So we'll see. And obviously next weekend is going to be huge because the Yankees are in town. There is I hate the Yankees too, but they drive a crowd. Like the Yankees, the Red Sox, like the Dodgers are coming this year. there are going to be some opportunities for some home, there are going to be a lot of opposing fans, but for a nice crowd at the ballpark, which is just great. Like you need that at Kauffman Stadium. Like you have to. And so I can't wait for later on this year, and hopefully I'm able to get to a game here soon.
Yep, love it. I'll have to try to find that beer. I gotta try to go get that. I gotta try it out.
And they have Cork has a new seltzer coming out here soon.
I saw it's like bomb pop.
Yeah. I might need to join you in the TikTok video for that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the seltzer review.
Heck yeah. All right, Tuck. Thank you so much, man. Let's get out of here. Hope you all have a great weekend. Smash that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe to KC Sports Network. Tons of draft stuff coming up soon. Buy the KC Draft Guide. Come hang out at the Kingdom Bar and Grill. I think I might be there, at least
good.
Two. So that's going to be really fun coming up here soon. Be sure to like, rate, subscribe on the audio channels as well. Look for KCSN Kansas City Royals. That's where you'll find this show. And Royals Farm Report should be out on Monday. Talk to y'all then. Take care.